Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. I think it is finally time for a pond update. After hundreds and hundreds of comments over the last 10 videos that we've posted that weren't related to the pond, I think you guys have had enough and you got to know what's going on. So let's get into it. So without further ado, here is what the pond looks like as of today. If you're not familiar with the backstory here, about 2 months ago, we completely drained out this pond and we started dredging out the bottom. We had a lot of clay and shale mixture in here, which was leaking, and the pond wouldn't get much fuller than this. It would get up to about where the standpipe comes up out of the dam. And then if we would go a week or two without rain, it could drop up to a foot in a week or two without any rain. So basically, dredging the bottom didn't really do anything as far as helping the pond hold water, but what it did was give us some room to bring in that new material. We brought in about 53 triaxle loads of clay without making the pond any smaller on the sides or shallower. So we brought in good clay, smoothed it around with the bulldozer, and then I got a sheep's foot roller and rolled everything in really nice and tight. And as you can tell, the pond level right now is about where it was, or even a little bit higher than when we drained it. And the pond has filled up extremely quickly. And a lot of that has to do with, I do think that it is holding water. It's at least holding water better than it was. I still won't know until the pond gets a little bit fuller whether it's holding water for good. But right now, I do believe it is higher than it was when we decided to drain it. We've had a significant amount of rain in the last 2 months. Last summer was so dry, it was crazy. And this year we've actually had a fairly wet summer. It's been, dry here and there, but when it has rained, we've had a couple of deluges that, really put it down. And as you can see, when the pond fills up that quickly, it actually presents some other problems for us. Namely, this clay blanket that we had put in here. So if you look over at this edge here, when the water starts running down the hill so fast and it's coming in, it actually carved out a lot of that clay that we brought in here and took it back down. So one thing that I need to do before the pond fills up anymore is I probably need to get another triaxle load of clay or so, and I need to kind of fill this all back in, because right now that is a break in that clay liner that we put in here, and that could eventually get underneath all the clay that we put in and find a slip layer and work its way out of the pond dam there. Speaking of things that we need to address, I've got one more with our French drain that I noticed a couple weeks ago when we had a really heavy rain. All right, so this is our French drain that we installed last year to catch all the water off the hillside. The majority of what comes off the hillside actually kind of collects in this little channel here, you can see. And then it goes down into the gravel here, into a perforated pipe that runs the whole length of the gravel. And then right here we transition from perforated pipe and gravel to clay and solid pipe. And essentially any water that goes into the gravel there is forced into that perforated pipe and then into the solid and down into the pond. This is only a 4-inch line. And what I have seen, when we get a really heavy rainfall, this is collecting so much water that the water will actually go down into the gravel. So the French drain in the gravel is doing its job to capture the water. But the problem is, with this only being a 4-inch pipe, it can get overrun with how many acres we have collecting water here. And what I noticed is, this stream coming down the hill hits the gravel, goes down into the pipe, and then as soon as it hits this clay and it's, basically bottlenecked at that 4-inch pipe there, it will start actually bubbling back up and then working its way across the surface. Well, the French drain is working to catch all the water, but as soon as it hits that dam of clay there, it bubbles back up because that 4-inch line is getting overrun. That was a heck of a rainstorm. And washing away all my clay we just put in, down to just bare rock again. And that is the cause of all of this erosion we have in this clay blanket that we put in this pond. So 2 things I need to do. One is I probably need to put a secondary pipe in here, either, another 4-inch pipe so we have an 8-inch total pipe there, or you know, just go big or go home, put in an 8-inch pipe there. So anytime that 4-inch pipe that comes out here gets overrun, it'll hit that 8-inch pipe and we should never have another problem again. And then once I get that done, I do need to, like I said earlier, get another triaxle load of clay and fix some of these erosion channels on this side of the pond, because I don't want one more triaxle load of clay to be why this pond is leaking, because we didn't address, you know, some of these ruts and channels in this section of the pond dam here. And it kind of has to be done in that order, because if I add the clay in here first before addressing the actual problem, it's just going to keep happening, and whatever clay I add in here is just going to wash back down into the pond again. So this is all cause and effect stuff. If you just fix the effect, you're not solving the cause. It's just going to keep happening. So fix that first, then fix this, and we should be good to go. As far as the pond level, we'll continue walking around here just to give you a visual of where the water level is. I know kind of my rule of thumb, or my gauge right now for the water level, is where that water level is in relation to where the standpipe comes up out of the pond. And I know from going back and looking at the footage when we drained it, that this is higher than it was when we drained it. And one thing I have noticed is that, you know, in years past, as we would go, you know, a couple weeks without rain, you could definitely see where the water level had come up to, and then you could see it start to drop down. Now, right now, you might be seeing these wet spots on the upper side of the water level. That is not a high water mark and then the water receded back down. That is just the clay on the outside of the pond dam wicking that moisture up like a sponge into, you know, uphill. If it was actually, you know, coming up and then back down, what you would see is the side would actually be smooth, because as that water comes up, you can actually almost kind of see here on the edge where the water is. Whenever the wind starts sloshing around on the sides, what it does is it kind of smooths everything out. So if this water level were to drop 6 inches, you would see a real slick, smooth side and not this rough finish that was left from the bulldozer. So that's how I know that the water level hasn't dropped any. It's actually maintaining. And for the last week and a half, we've actually been pretty dry. I think yesterday we might have got like a 1/4 inch of rain, but for 7 or 8 days prior to that, we had 0 rain. And if that would have happened before we did this, I know the pond level would have dropped 6 to 12 inches at least. So it's really encouraging to see that the water level has not receded at all yet. That makes me feel really good. Like I said, again, it's still too early to tell, but I'll tell you what, I am going to be absolutely tickled pink when I see water go down that standpipe for the first time. I'm really hoping that that happens here sometime this fall or winter. I know for a fact that this has filled up so much faster than it did the first go around. Like I said, it has been 2 months and we are right back to where we were back in June as far as the water level goes. Now, an estimate for depth, when we first filled this pond, I took my drone and I took off from the very bottom to set that as my 0. And the nice thing about the drone is it tells you, you know, your elevation. And I flew it straight up and then over to the top of the standpipe, and it gave me a reading of about 12 feet. So you can see I've got the standpipe there marked with measurements. And, you know, obviously right now with the water level not being up to the standpipe, it doesn't really give you much of an indication of where the water level is, but you can kind of eyeball that if right where the standpipe comes up out of the dam would be about 9 feet, I'd say it's probably another foot down to water level. So right out here in the deepest spot of the pond, it's probably about 8 foot of water in 2 months. On 0.5 to 0.6 acre pond. It's a little over a ½ acre, probably not quite a 3/4 acre pond. So, I mean, definitely deep enough to swim. If we had some kind of dock or something here, you could definitely jump off and dive in and not, you know, crack your head open. And definitely going to be enough to ice skate. We've got plenty of surface to ice skate this winter. And so, you know, things are looking good. Another kind of measurement tactic that we use to keep an eye on the water level, aside from the standpipe and looking at the sides of the pond dam, another thing that we kind of look at is over here where we put in the beach. We added a little bit of a, I call it the sand dam. You know, it keeps all of the sand from the beach from washing into the rest of the pond and wasting all that sand. And you can kind of see that slowly disappearing here. And I'm glad I got all of the sand down here and here in the bottom to start, so that way I'm not working down here in the water. We still need to add more to the upper side, but I still have some time to get that done. But yeah, you can see our sand dam that we put in right there is slowly disappearing. And that's another good sign that we're moving in the right direction. So there you go. That is the September 2023 update on the pond. Like I said earlier, it is still too early to know for sure whether it's going to hold and fill up, and one day we're going to see water flow into the standpipe and the pond be working as it should. But that being said, things are looking very promising. I'm pretty optimistic right now. We have gone through a number of 1 to 2 week dry spells of 90-degree, sunny, low humidity weather. And granted, we have the siphon feeding the pond, but we have not seen the water level recede at all yet. So that is very encouraging to see. We still have some work we need to do before the snow flies. Like I said, we've got to take care of the French drain, get some additional clay on the outer liner of the pond. And I definitely need to get another triaxle load of sand so we can get the beach area finished before it's completely underwater. With the way things are going, I think it's going to continue to fill up quickly. Obviously, the closer we get to full, the slower it's going to fill up. But if I don't do it sometime here shortly, I'm not going to be able to do it until, spring. Either that or I'm going to be out here in 10-degree weather putting in the beach like I was last year. I don't want to be in that position again. That was not any fun. So yeah, either way, we're definitely going to be ice skating this winter, assuming we get a cold enough winter. Last year was not a great winter for ice skating. I think we got out here one time, and even then the top was real slushy and we didn't really get to enjoy it much. So yeah, again, that is the update on the pond. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.